Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live with your host, me, Ben McCarthy. So thank you very much for being with us this evening or morning, wherever you're based in the world, to hear from another one of our partners. Now, today we're going to be speaking about a topic that I think everyone can relate to. So although there's, a lot of exciting stuff like AI, whether you love it or hate it at this point, there's stuff that we can all get behind, which is like fundamental aspects to Salesforce. And today we're going to be speaking about visualizing hierarchies of interconnected objects in Salesforce. And I'm sure any admin out there can relate to sometimes how difficult it can be to navigate through different interconnected objects inside of Salesforce. So I'm going to invite to the stage Raphael Epstein, who is with Orenda. Hello, Raphael. How are you doing?
Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Looking forward to see what you have to say today. So just a reminder to everyone that feel free to comment. We'd love to know where you're dialing in from today. And if you've got any questions for Raphael about anything that's discussed, then feel free to put it in the chat and we'll get through to as many of your questions as we can at the end of the session. So I'm going to bring up your deck, Raphael. And if you're ready to go, I'll hand it over to you.
Ready to go? All right, great. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We have a great audience today. Let me quickly introduce the topic of our discussion and maybe some color behind why we're talking about it. So we're talking today about some of the challenges that we met in the last 10, 15 years, looking at Salesforce from a little bit different perspective, which is in situations where you need to deal with a lot of records at once. Usually Salesforce is excellent in doing a single record, like an opportunity or something, but when you start dealing with situation where you have a quote with thousands of items, or you have an opportunity with hundreds of opportunity lines, orders with many items, and they're all given in different hierarchies, it becomes tedious and quite difficult to deal with. During the last 10 years or so, we developed several products and did numerous projects with customers that had to deal had to deal with this situation. And we developed a lot of, say, street smarts and some tools. And at some point, we decided about a year ago that it makes sense to actually offer the technology that we found so intriguing and supporting to the general community. And today, it so happens that we are launching Orenda and the product. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the challenges we've been facing and what are the different ways to solve it and how we solve it. And hopefully you will like what you see. So let me first introduce the two members of our team. Dima Rivlin is our CTO and co-founder. He's been around Salesforce for more than 10 years, did some huge projects in financial institutes and government projects and so on. Myself, Raphael Epstein, I'm the co-founder actually. I've been involved with Salesforce for probably more than 15 years in different capacities and started getting down the road of ISV products and so on about 10 years ago. So we are quite familiar. We have several products on the App Exchange, and Orenda is, as I said, is relatively a newcomer. So today, double celebration. We have this webinar. We are launching Orenda, and we again would like to thank everybody for joining. And without further ado, let me talk a little bit about the agenda and dive immediately into the material itself. I would like to start with talking a little bit about limitations of the standard Salesforce views, such as list views or related lists, the way we've encountered, which I'm sure many of you as well had many situations where you ran into limitations. And then what I'd like to do is take a few use cases, explain how we solved it in the past or what are the options, and then demonstrate in real life how things are or how things can be made more would say, simplified or simpler, more useful, more user-friendly, and easier for the users. And those are the 5 cases. And towards the end, we hope to allow enough time for the session of Q&A. I'm sure we are not going to cover all the functionality and all the problems and all the use cases. And for those that we need a little bit extra time or extra attention, we'll be more than happy to talk to you in any future opportunity. Okay. So let me start by kind of trying to summarize the challenges that we've seen, okay? So one of the issues is viewing large amount of records. And for example, we have maintenance contracts for our customers, and a maintenance contract may contain 20,000, 40,000. We have one customer with 265,000 items in a single contract, okay? And when you think about it, either as a list view or related list or anything else, and you're trying to look for something, it's a big challenge, okay? And you don't want to scroll forever, and you want to find the information much faster than than the standard Salesforce allows you to do. Other restrictions are the total number of rows, but also number of columns. And if you think about related list, and limitation of 10 columns, for example, is one thing. Filters are available in some places, not in all, but they are not that sophisticated and sometimes hard to define how to operate. Related lists, as they stand, are defined by the admin, and one size fits them all, and that's not the case as it stands in real life. How do you create the ability to have users define their own structure of related lists with different columns, different filters, and so on and so forth? And now, when you're dealing with hierarchical data, which is a way to split complex data sets, it's a big challenge, because usually what you can do with Salesforce is to look at one level of hierarchy, like master detailed or a lookup relationship. But you have a parent and you have child. If you want to look at grandchildren together with other objects, or if you have account hierarchy and you want to look at information for all the accounts in the hierarchy, it is a bit of a challenge, I would say. And sometimes objects don't have any way of viewing them, or limited viewing, or since they are not customizable, you can't really do, let's say, calculated fields or formula fields, because you cannot customize it. It's really a big issue. And another situation that we've seen a lot is the fact that if you look at standard list views or related lists, they show you information from a single object. So if you need some information from a related object, maybe extension object, maybe one-to-one, it becomes quite a challenge. And of course, one would say, hey, you can use reports, but everybody knows the complexity and limitation of reports. It's quite cumbersome. It requires special permission for the users. It's not interactive. You can't really operate on the results. You can't make changes. You can't do a lot of things. And there are limitations, like 5,000 records in some cases and so on. So in our case, those limitations were unacceptable by the users in the vertical space, and we created some solutions, and this is what we'd like to discuss now. As I said, we'll take a look at specific use cases, and we'll tackle them one by one. And the first one is really how to better visualize parent-child relationship, okay? What are the current limitations? Current limitation is that there is only a single level, right? You go from master to detail, but if you want to go to detail, or the master to child to grandchild or anything similar, it's a challenge. You don't want to go one by one, right? You don't want to go from the parent to a child, look at the child, from the child to the related list of the grandchild. This is not really working, so it's not really convenient, right? So this multi-step navigation is really tedious, and you want the ability to optimize the list the way you want to see it, what fields you want to see, what records you want to see, how do you filter it easily, and so on and so forth. So this is definitely a challenge. Let's take a look at a specific opportunity or a specific use case. Let's say that you're an account manager and you need to understand the product mix of a specific account. And the account view can show you, the opportunities. Each opportunity has the product lines, okay? But how can you understand all the products that you sold, let's say, in the opportunities to this account? And I'm speaking about maybe a single account, right? So one way to go is to use a report. So switching quickly to one example of a report. I'm not going into too many details. Everybody understands how it's done. But you can look at the account, and then you can look at the opportunities, and then you can look at the product and create a report, and it looks something like that. It's, of course, not interactive. Filtering requires permission, and then you need to do changes, so you need permissions, you need to save, you contaminate the folders of the reports. You can't make any changes if you want to make changes, and so on and so forth. So that's quite tedious and not the best solution. What is the alternative? Okay, how can we deal with it a little bit differently? So let me show you one example of how the information can be organized differently. So this is, let's say, standard account, more or less out of the box. I'm going to skip all that information here. And let's say that we are looking at the at what we call the Orenda grid, okay? And we have the current account with all the opportunities. For each opportunity, we see all the product items, and it's relatively straightforward to see the hierarchy, to navigate, and see the information you need. Now, not only that you see this information, you think about hundreds of records, you have the ability to filter almost on any field and understand what you have for that. So for example, if I want to filter on product code and say, I want everything that has, I don't know, the letters ASS inside, I can do quick filter, contains ASS, sorry, of course, contains ASS. Okay, that doesn't work now for whatever reason. But generally, this is the idea. I'll show it to you on a different grid. Now, for even a more interesting situation, let's assume you have a account hierarchy. Here we have very simple Coca-Cola bottling. Okay, let's assume you have this. So you can create a different view that shows you all the opportunities from all the accounts in the hierarchy. Okay. So this is for Coca-Cola bottling, and this is for Coca-Cola, okay? And inside that, you have the opportunities, and inside that, you have all the opportunity product lines. So you can create like almost a 3-level hierarchy or more than that, depending on the account hierarchy. Here we have account, major account, child account, opportunities, and product items or product lines. They are all viewed in a single grid that can be filtered. We can change which fields we want to see there by doing the configuration. So we can select and deselect fields. We can go to other objects that are related and add fields from them interactively without creating formula fields and copying data. And we can apply server-side filters if needed, and so on and so forth. So the possibilities are endless. We're not going to go into too much details. Anybody who's interested can, again, take a look at our product, or we can answer any questions in the QA. This is the general capability of how you can look at multi-level hierarchy objects, almost with limitless functionality. Okay. Let's move to another use case, the use case of history tracking. And what is the challenge there? We have an excellent tool in Salesforce, standard history. If you have Shield, you have extended history tracking, up to 60 fields. And it is automatic, and you have the related list of the history, and all is great. Now, sometimes this list becomes very long, and it's hard to find information. But it becomes even more problematic when you are trying to understand the history from the parent perspective. So let's understand something like, let's say you have an opportunity, you have product lines, and things change because the customer changed their mind, they demand more discount, they change quantity, they add items, they remove items, and the product in the opportunity keeps changing. It's the same may happen if you have a quote unquote items, or maybe you have a purchase order, and so on and so forth. So in a situation where you have an account manager that all of a sudden notices a change in the account or in the opportunity, something happens, maybe the credit line, the credit limit has been reached or something, and this poor guy or girl is trying now to understand what happened in the opportunity. So in order to understand what changed, they need to look at one product at a time, product line at a time, and understand the changes in that history. And if there are hundreds of product lines, and in our case, we have a customer that has, as I said, tens of thousands, right? Trying to figure out what changed is a mission impossible. So again, yes, you can try to export and write maybe some cool report, and you need to understand the relationship and the idea of the opportunity, and do this and do that. Instead, we can take a look at what we call multi-level history. Okay, and what is multi-level history? So, for example, the history can be defined. The history of the product lines can be defined as a related list of the order itself. In this case, we're talking about an order. Okay, and for each of the items, I can see the change that took place. Okay, according to right now, it's sorted according to creation date. Now, let's say that I'm looking at all the changes that took place. So maybe the quantity changed, maybe the unit price changed, maybe the line description, which I'm not interested in, and so on and so forth. If I want to achieve, if I want to retrieve changes to, let's say, the unit price, I'm interested only in the unit price, I can very easily filter either interactively by saying something like is equal to unit price, okay? In which case I immediately get only the unit price of all the order items of all the, items in this specific order. Similarly, I can save it. Let's say I'm always interested in understanding what changed in terms of unit price in an order. I can save it. And if I save it, I get here under the related list, multiple views. I can select the price change only, and it will run actually the same query. And I can very easily go into the configuration, add fields, remove fields. Okay, let's say I want to know, for example, I want to apply a different condition. Right now, the condition is that the field of the history change is unit price. I can add another field, define an OR field, OR operation, AND operation, not operation. I can add as many fields as I like. That impacts the underlying SOQL query. I'm getting the results, and I can display them any way, shape, or form I like, and I can save it as a different view that is either shared, so everybody can use it, or personal to me only, and only I can use it. Okay. Now, another interesting capability here is the ability to create virtual fields. So as you know, product history doesn't have the ability to be customized, right? You cannot add fields, but let's assume that I do want to understand, in case there is a change to price, and I'm tracking the changes, I'd like to understand what is the percentage of change, what we call price change percentage. So this is a calculated field that is actually calculated in runtime. It's not in the database. It is calculated by the system based on a formula that is written in something that is similar to JavaScript, basically. So if you know a little bit about JavaScript, this is a formula or just an expression. excuse me, in JavaScript. And in this expression, we take two fields and we say, okay, I want the difference between new field and original field divided by the new field, converted to percentage, and blah, 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 and so on and so forth, and I get the number here, okay? So I can say, listen, I'm only interested in changes that took place for I don't know, during a period of time. I can do a filter on the date. If I want to change, say, I'm only interested in changes that happen to a very expensive item, I can say, hey, I want everything that's, for example, greater than or something like that, and so on and so forth. So very easy for the user with minimal knowledge to quickly understand what happened in all the product items that belong to a given order. And if you want to do it from the account, you can create all the changes that took place in all the orders of this account in the last year. So you can have a 3-level hierarchy of the history changes. Okay. All right. Let's take another example, something that was really, really important to our customers. And what is this really, really important? It's the question of how things change between objects, not the history change of a single record, but generally a change between different elements. What do I mean by that? For example, we can think about two quotes or two versions of the same quote, and things change between them. And I'd like to understand what changed and so on, right? So I'd like to create a side-by-side comparison between one data set that has hundreds of records from opportunity number one to opportunity number two with hundreds of records. And I'd like to understand what are the differences, what was added, what was deleted, what price list was, unit price change, what quantity change, and so on and so forth. In order to do it manually, I will probably need to write reports, export the whole data set of opportunity one into Excel, do the same for opportunity number two into Excel number two, bring the two Excel together, create a VLOOKUP. Everybody loves it, right? But what if you have duplicate values in the part numbers? How do you work? How does it compare? And then copy some fields as a result of the VLOOKUP. And this is your comparison function. So it's pretty tedious, pretty annoying, pretty inaccurate, lots of errors on the VLOOKUP. Everybody hates it. Instead, we can use one of the interesting and most useful capabilities, which is what we call the comparison or the comparator. Okay. So for example, let's say I want to compare the Coca-Cola version 1 with Coca-Cola version 2. Okay. So there is a tab was created. I select here one or more, and this is kind of interesting because maybe I split an opportunity into two opportunities, and I'd like to compare opportunity number one with A and B. I'll keep it simple, compare it to Coca-Cola version 2, okay? Say, please compare. Now, everything here is configurable. Which fields you want to compare? In this case, we are looking at quantity, list price, total price. What is the function? Is it the product code? Is it the combination? And so on and so forth. And which other fields you want to see, and so on. And you have two parts. You have the left, which is the source or the main, this is opportunity one. And on the right-hand side, you have the second or the target, which is Coca-Cola version 2. And you have the comparison. And then you can see on the left side, you can see items that exist in opportunity one that may or may not exist in opportunity two, and you can filter. For example, if you click on in master, you will see elements that are only in master one, different than what you have in master two. If you say in comparison, what elements or product lines exist in opportunity two that do not exist? Look at all the matched items, I can see differences that are highlighted. Quantity 1 in Coca-Cola version 1 versus quantity 6, okay? And I can also see all the unmatched items. And all of this information can be, again, configurable, can be exported, you can filter, you can do almost, especially if it's very long, right? Sometimes you want to look at, differences, big differences, so you can filter on the list price or the total price and so on and so forth. So that's one interesting capability, okay? The other interesting capability is when you want to compare records, but from different objects. And I'll give you two examples. One is price. So the opportunity product has a price that was copied from the opportunity, from the price book, right? Maybe something changed on the price book. So how do I know after a month or two, all of a sudden the customer comes to me and say, yeah, I'm ready to order. And I want to know, did anything change in pricing? How do I do that, right? So instead of comparing opportunity to opportunity, I can compare an opportunity to the price. And I can determine, or can configure it in a way that on the left side, I have certain subset of the fields from the opportunity. And on the right hand, I have certain fields from the price, but they don't necessarily match by name, but they match by concept, by context, by meaning, okay? So in this case, I'm looking at opportunity one, and I need to select a price book because there may be different price books. And I say, please compare, tell me how things are. Are there any differences, and so on and so forth. So, I can see sales price here is different than the list price, and so on and so forth. So it's the same idea, same concept of comparing two things. In this case, I'm looking for changes in the list price, for example. Another example might be between, say, opportunity and a downstream object like orders. So again, I need to define the matching function, a product item or product line from the opportunity. What is the function that compares it to an item in the order? Okay, one of the order items. I can select one or more orders because maybe I split the opportunity into more than one order. Click OK, and I can see here that there are items that don't exist, items that do exist, different in difference in list price, and so on and so forth. So this is a very beneficial function when you work with a large amount of data that has versions or has some, not necessarily version like a quote version, but has a downstream flow of the same information, and things may have changed in the middle, and you're looking to understand what changed and how changed and so on. So it's a very useful function. Last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about creating smart views that can identify discrepancies and anomalies and other insights that, I'm not talking about AI here, I'm not talking about trends or any sophistication. I'm talking about the raw data that usually it's, again, if you have large amount of products or large amount of items in the quote, large amount of contracts, items under management, and so on and so forth, it's very important, right? So today it's difficult to analyze because you see you have the list view, and you have maybe the related list, but you don't have any logic that might help you identify any discrepancies. And I'm talking about, again, structured logic. So your alternative is usually to create a report, export the data, run Excel, do filtering in Excel. So instead of doing all of that, it becomes easier to do it in the context of the Orenda grid. So take a look at one example just to give you a better idea. Again, we go back to our favorite Coca-Cola version 1, and we can take a look at, say, one of the opportunity products. And let's say that we want to identify a few things, okay? First, we have, list price, we have sales price, we have additional discount, right? And we would like to understand what is the effective discount. Effective discount happens not to be a field on the object. And yes, of course, you can go and say, I will create a formula field and calculate the effective discount, all possible. But it means that you need to go to the admin, and the admin will have to define, and somebody else will want something else. And there is a question of how the whole thing works. If you want something more dynamic, you want to be a little bit more self-sufficient, okay? So here comes the trick of creating a virtual field that we explained a little bit earlier. And in this case, the virtual field can take the list price, sales price, additional discount, calculate everything and say, hey, your effective discount, as you can see here, 30% or 10% or 11%. In addition to creating a calculated field, you can format any field, any standard field, custom field, or virtual field like this one. And for example, you can say everything above 10%, I want it to be highlighted because I want to quickly identify and understand that it has some merit. And again, the trick here is that you can always filter, you can always sort, you can do a lot of things that will help you quickly identify what is going on. So for example, I can say that everything that has a value that is greater or equal, I don't know, 500, I'm interested in, okay, for example. And I see that some has, some product have 30%, some 11, some have negative, which means I sell them too low maybe, okay, and so on and so forth. Of course, I can reset the filter and do any other calculation. Similar to that, if you do want and you do need this information, you can easily export to Excel. Okay, so any grid, any view, based on the view, based on the filtering, and so on and so forth, you can export to Excel. Click on Excel was created in real time. Click on the Excel, and you will get all this information, and that is pretty scalable. Okay, it can do, I think, up to 50,000 records. It may take a few minutes, right, depending on your machine, etc. But basically, this is how it works. So let me show you the Excel. Here's the Excel that was created. Basically, the same columns, the same view, the same data, all in exported Excel. Okay. If you change the view, you filter, you export, you'll get something else, right? And again, it's configurable. If you have permission, you can decide which fields you want to see or not to see, right? I can add a field, or I want to add date, I can add date, selecting it and moving it to the right place and so on, okay? If I want to filter on the server and get only expensive items instead of getting all the items, I can do that. I can decide if a field is editable or not, and so on and so forth. So for example, let's say that I want to be able to change some data. I can go and double click and change the data. But more interestingly, I can do a change in bulk. I can select a few items, right? And decide that I want all of them to have a certain discount or a certain quantity. So I can say, hey, I want to change the quantity from 2 to 5 for all 3 items, apply, changed it, saved it, okay, and I'm done. So you can, in the Orenda grid, it's not only useful for viewing data, analyzing data, and so on. It's also very useful for creating making changes in bulk, and you can make changes to a lot of records, regardless of the scalability. Of course, if you're trying to change, thousands of records, it will have to be done in chunks, and the system can handle that, and so on and so forth. So in terms of presenting the information and running operations, you have also full control over a custom button and operations using standard operations like deleting, if you want to delete items, and the system admin can block those functions if needed, or you can define, or with the help of a programmer, custom actions where you can select items, click a button that is some custom operation, and invoke it, or it can be used even inside flow, to select records based on more convenient criteria and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the capabilities that exist. Okay. Given where we are in terms of time and trying to respect everybody's time and leave enough time for Q&A, I would like maybe to pause here and open the stage for any questions, any comments, any questions, anything that we haven't covered that you might be interested in. We have Dima, our CTO, standing by.
Hey, Raphael, thanks so much for that. Great presentation. Always good to see the extra kind of things you thought weren't possible with Salesforce until you see an app such as yours. So I'm sure it unlocks a lot of exciting use cases for everyone in the audience. So thank you very much. And yeah, inviting Dimi to the stage, who is here to support Raphael with any questions you might have. So please feel free to drop them in the chat. We've got a bit of time now, so feel free. I've got a few coming in here that I can get kick-started with. So do you need to be a Salesforce admin to change the configuration?
Of course, admin can change anything in the system.
But I think the question was, do you have to be an admin? Not if you're an admin.
Let's say so. We are using standard Salesforce model to define who is admin. We are using the permission set, and you can assign this permission set to any user that you want. And this user can be admin.
But it's not a Salesforce admin, it's a Orenda admin or power user, right?
Yes, power user. You don't need to use a system admin profile to be admin, let's say so.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you very much. And a kind of a follow-up question here, I guess. Can you limit who can make changes?
Yes, of course. All UI items that you see in the screen, for example, grid itself, custom actions, I think, yes. For example, as I said, grid, custom actions, and ability to edit data can be restricted by Orenda admin.
Yeah.
And for example, custom action can be restricted separately. Each custom action can be enabled or disabled separately, totally separately, but this is not enough. If you want to provide any dynamic condition, for example, you want to enable or disable specific custom action by profile, permission set, user field, or something else, it can be defined. It's very, very flexible.
What about deletion of records, for example?
Yes, it can be also restricted.
So,
but we have a big but. What is the but? First of all, we are using a standard Salesforce CRUD mechanism. It means if the current user cannot delete something, you even will not see this option in a grid. The same idea for creation a new item. If you don't have in a system permission for this, you cannot provide this operation.
So different users with different permissions will see different operations available to them depending on their core permission, plus whatever the Orenda admin defined, or the Orenda power user defined as permitted, on top of the regular permission with higher granularity, right?
Yes. And this is not all. All those permissions, all those configurations will be stored as a list view. It means that you can have a different list view, and for each list view, you have a separate definition of the custom buttons, custom fields, I don't know, title, filtering, etc., etc., etc.
So for each view, so combination of the view itself, the user permission, and data will determine what operations are allowed, right?
Yes.
So there may be fields in the data that says you cannot delete this record, as an example. So even though you may be able to do it because you have the permission, you won't be able to do it because the data says otherwise. So we add this layer of data-driven capabilities or permissions or restrictions, actually, right? In addition to the regular Salesforce, which is based usually on profiles, permission sets, which is looking more at the objects in general, right? And that's kind of interesting, yeah.
Yes, and the additional options that we have, as you see on the screen, each list view can be shared with one or more users or groups or any other sharing options that you have. And accordingly of this, each user can provide, can have permission to edit current configuration. Because I can share this specific list view as read-only. And it means that all users that can see this list view but cannot change it.
Okay, good.
Great.
Okay, I think we can move to the next question.
Thank you very much. And what operations can be supported on multiple records, like bulk?
I think the most important for all of us, this is a must delete operation. Yes, we are supporting this. But also, if we are discussing about, let's say, any operations that we are providing, probably most important for all of us, we can run a screen flow. And not just a run screen flow, but with input parameters. For example, in our grid, you can choose one or more records, click a custom button that is associated with a specific flow, and this flow will get as input parameter all selected records. Nice. It's a very powerful feature, and we are using this, and we have a good results, let's say so. So, for example, if this is not enough for you, and you know JavaScript, you can run any custom action because you have, from JavaScript, you have access to API, Salesforce API, and you can provide any operations that you want. We don't have any restriction for this. If, of course, Orenda admin allow you to do this.
And if you have development skill, or you are permitted to develop, right? You can actually, as a developer, write also Apex code, not just Flow, right? I mean, Apex code that will be and receive as input the selected subset of records, even if it's a large amount of records, right?
Yeah, this is the next, let's say, next step. Usually flow enough for most of the users, but if even this not enough, you can we have interface with the Apex, and we can send and run input parameters to the Apex that you define in configuration. Even more, we have let's say this is totally new for our development. We have an orchestrator. It means that, for example, if you want to process, I don't know, 50,000 records, and it will take a time, and you don't want to wait, we can send information about operation to Apex and run this operation in a batch. And user will have notification at the end.
Very cool.
And as a developer, you only need to develop the batch portion,
logic,
right? I mean, the logic, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
We provide all infrastructure for this. Separation by chunks, error handling, information, what is the chunk running right now, all this we already done as infrastructure.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, let's
So
move to the next question.
You can see you've obviously got the early adopters program, and Hierarchies has asked, how can I join the 3-month full access? Hey,
okay, so just one word about the promotion itself, and then I'll address the general question. So as I said, we are launching the product, and will be more. We already have customers, actually paying customers, using using it quite extensively, but now we're going to the larger, broader market with this promotion of 3 months free usage. Please send us an email. Best is to ask the access via our website. It's orendahq.com, and the App Exchange registration as well. Any form, or just send an email to my address or Dima's address. I can put it in the chat. Can we put it in the chat for people to see? Ben, I'm not sure.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I can do, I just. Yeah, I can. Oh, come on. I'll just put my email here. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So I put my email. Please feel free to send me an email. I don't know if you can put it in the chat. But definitely, as I said, the best is to register on our website or the App Exchange, and we'll be more than happy to register you and help you set it up. Although our customers claim they can do it on their own, we're always happy to provide the help to get started.
Yeah. Cool. All right, okay. That's great.
Any other questions, Ben, on your list?
No, I'll leave it a couple of seconds just to see if there's any other questions that come in. But yeah, if not, I think we're good to start wrapping up. So thank you very much for everyone for attending today. I hope you enjoyed the session, and thank you for spending your evening, morning, afternoon with us. Raphael, thank you very much for hosting today. Any final words before we sign off?
Just excited to launch, really excited, and we'll be more excited if we have as many people join the early adopters program, part of which, by the way, you can influence the roadmap. So I'm sure there are features that are missing, so we are eager to hear from you. There is even a special site that will help us get your feedback and figure that all out. There is a help site and videos that will help you guys get started, and we are here to support you with any additional questions. So I'm excited. Hope you are, and I hope to see many of you as soon as possible.
Great, fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. See you later.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.